What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a review and wear test and demo of the new Wet n Wild Cushion Foundation. I got this on their website for $8.99. The shipping was extremely fast. I have it in the shade Light Ivory. It is the lightest shade, I believe. It comes in 8 disappointingly light shades, just FYI. It is a cushion foundation, so if you've never seen a cushion foundation, basically this is the packaging, which is really cute. I love the way it looks. I'm not usually a fan of like cutesy packaging, but for some reason I love this packaging. And when you open it up, there's the cushion right here. You pull that out and then you open that up, and then there is a cushion in there full of foundation. And yeah, that is how it works. Now, a couple things about this foundation. It is said to be hydrating, luminous, buildable. It's infused with coconut something. It says it's infused with a coconut derivative. It doesn't really go into much detail on that note, but yeah, that is what it is infused with, in case you're wondering. It is SPF 15, which in my opinion is absolutely useless because you need more than SPF 15 in anything. I'm not sure what the point of putting that in here would be, because SPF 15 just in itself doesn't really do much. You need at least SPF 30 just to keep yourself protected from the sun. So anyway, that isn't necessarily a selling point for me, but I guess I can see why it would be a selling point for some people. This one is actually a really good shade for me. As you can see, it matches me pretty well, luckily, because like I said, they only have 8 shades, so I really lucked out in finding my shade match. I mean, 8 shades, come on. I'm assuming they're planning on expanding it at some point. Their cushion line has been out for a while. This is the first time, however, that I've actually seen a cushion foundation. They had cushion highlighters and cushion color correcting concealers come out months ago, but honestly, I am most excited about a cushion foundation. It is extremely hydrating. I will give it that. It is probably mainly for people with dry skin. I'm not sure how this would play on oily skin because I do have dry skin, just for reference. I also have keratosis pilaris, which is like little micro texture on my cheeks. Pretty undetectable, especially if you're not like looking for it, but it does cause a little bit of redness, which is poking through right here. I would not say that this is a full coverage foundation. It doesn't claim to be a full coverage foundation. It says it's buildable on their website. Now, my experience in building this foundation is the more you build it, the more it's going to want to crease because it is a very hydrating foundation. It doesn't really dry down completely without powdering it, and I did powder it today. It doesn't really cling to any dry patches on my face, which I really appreciate. As long as I don't build it up too much on the areas of my face that tend to crease, then I really don't get that much creasing, at least not an unacceptable amount of creasing. This would be an acceptable amount of creasing. Generally, I'll just kind of smooth over it throughout the day. I'm not somebody who is against touching up my makeup. One thing I should also mention about this foundation is it is heavily scented. I can't put my finger on what it reminds me of, but it is heavily scented. It's almost like a floral, perfumey scent. So if that is something that you have a lot of qualms about, then I would just steer clear of this. Like, that was the first thing I noticed. As soon as I opened it, it was like I just smelled it immediately. Like, before I'd even actually opened the foundation itself, like, all I had to do was open the compact to know that this is extremely scented. That's another thing you might have to take into consideration if you have really sensitive skin, which I do, and as of yet haven't experienced irritation, haven't had a reaction to it yet. And I do have eczema, and usually my eczema will just kind of pop up right away and itch for a little bit. But yeah, anyway, that is something to take into account. This is highly scented. Very, very much fragrance. Anyway. Okay, so I have already tried out this foundation various ways using the cushion, beauty blender, brush, and stuff like that. And I'm going to show you kind of how each of them compare to one another, each application method. However, I have not done like an official wear test. So today is going to be the wear test. This is, of course, the Wet n Wild Cushion Foundation. I have the lightest shade in the shade Light Ivory. So first I'm going to show you how the cushion applies the foundation. Get quite a bit on there. Now, something I've noticed about this foundation is it doesn't give like an extreme amount of coverage. So if you have a lot to cover up, this might not cut it for you. But I really love the finish of it. As you can see, it still kind of looks like my skin. It's pretty sticky. It doesn't seem to fully dry down. As you can see, that is just one layer on this half of my face with the cushion. Yeah, that's what we have. I actually really like the way this looks. I'm totally cool with not having super full coverage. I don't particularly need a lot of coverage on my skin. However, you know, and it just feels good because it's obviously super moisturizing. So yeah, that is half and half. I'm going to do the other half with a beauty blender because this is my other favorite way of applying this foundation. I've noticed when I apply it with a brush, it kind of drags. It gets a little bit streaky because it is really moisturizing. It's doable. You can definitely apply it with a brush. It's just easier for me to kind of get a hold of it, to just get the product with a beauty blender or the cushion. This is my favorite foundation brush. It's the Real Technique sculpting brush. I'm going to show you kind of what it looks like here. It tends to skip a little bit. It doesn't give a very uniform application. It just shears it out a lot more than I would like. So not my favorite way to apply it. But you know, it's doable. So I'm going to go back in with my beauty blender. Build the coverage up a little bit here. Like, look at how, I mean, it just makes my skin look like skin, but like better. I don't know. I really love it. You can see in between my eyebrows, like it's not caking up, which is a really bad, you know, it's kind of a problem area for me. Of course, my white balance is going to shit right now, but not sinking into my lines on my forehead yet. My upper lip looks pretty good. Another place my foundation tends to cake up is around my upper lip, and it looks pretty good. But the point of this video isn't just to give you a review and tell you how much I like it. It is also to do a wear test, because like I said, I haven't done an official wear test, and then I'll just kind of check in throughout the day. I'm going to go ahead and apply my concealer just a tiny bit. I don't want to ruin the finish of the foundation. I'm not getting super highlighty with the concealer today. I will just paint on concealer where I need it and be done with it. So that's about as much concealer as I'm going to put on my eyes. So you guys saw where I put this concealer. You saw that I did not drag it down all over my face, just so we're clear there. And then I'm going to go just around my nose here a little bit, just where I would normally put concealer. So you can see this foundation is still really dewy. It has not set down. I've noticed it doesn't really like to set down completely. I'm just going to use my Kat Von D blotting powder to set everything lightly. I am going to set my entire face though, lightly, just the way I would normally wear this foundation. So I'm going to finish up my face makeup real quick, and then I'll show you the finished look before we start with the check-ins. I had it on for about an hour because this is the second time I've filmed this intro. I haven't put it through a full-on wear test yet, because when I got it, I only wore it for a few hours. This is the day that it is going to be put through like a full-on wear test. I'm going to try and keep it on for 9 or 10 hours and see how it works out. Didn't put a whole lot of blush and bronzer and highlight on. I put highlight just on my cheekbones and right on my temples. I didn't really put it anywhere on the rest of my face. I did light blush and bronzer because I really want you guys to be able to see the finish of this foundation as it wears throughout the day. Real quick, like I said, I would not call this a full coverage foundation. I've built it up to the coverage I have without trying to build it too much. It did build a little bit, and I didn't have any problems building it in these areas of my faces on my cheek area. However, like I said, when I first got it, I wore it and tried to build it up to pretty full coverage, and it did crease really bad around my mouth. So I tried not to put too much coverage around my mouth. I tried to just do it as much as I needed to, add a little bit of concealer, and just leave it at that. So at this point, the foundation has been on for about 6 hours, and you know what? I do feel the need to touch it up. Normally, I would say for the sake of this video, I'm not going to touch it up so we can see what it looks like all day, but that's just not realistic. The way I would wear my foundation during the day is I would touch it up if it looked like it needed to be touched up. And I have a perfect opportunity to do that, because I'm not just going to use like powder foundation or powder or whatever. I'm actually just going to use the cushion and pretend like I just took it with me to touch up. I have been out and about, but I'm back now because obviously it's really dark. I wouldn't have been able to do a check-in. It gets dark where I live so early that I would have had to do a check-in at like 3-4 hours in, which I don't think is very useful. So it looks pretty good. Actually, it doesn't really look like it needs to be touched up in most places. The only place I would touch up would be right here on my nose, where, like, you know, your blood vessels kind of start showing, and I have really bad allergies, especially when it's really dry outside. So of course, like, it kind of wears off around my nose before it starts to wear off anywhere else. And we're going to see how it layers, see how well this actually touches up. And then of course I will check in again at the end of the night before I take my makeup off. I'm just going to use the cushion. Smells like perfume. It's actually looking pretty good. It's not starting to pull apart. Like sometimes if you try to touch up a foundation, even with powder foundation, it'll kind of start to pick up on itself and fall apart. Because once that initial coat of foundation has dried, trying to put something on top of it oftentimes will not work out to your advantage. Obviously, my mascara has flaked a little bit. Ignore that. I'm going to go around my lines because that's something I would do if I were going to touch my makeup up. Now, as you can see, that actually did a really good job of kind of gluing everything back together. I am going to powder this a little bit more so that it'll kind of set back into place. Now, my upper lip is where I usually have the biggest problem, and as you can see, it is kind of breaking up just a little bit, but you know, like, there are acceptable amounts of that for me. This would be an acceptable amount. If my lip has like a lot of patchiness on it where you can visibly see where the foundation has flaked off, that would be unacceptable in my opinion. I am impressed with how well it has held up. I'm impressed with the way it feels. Like, definitely has kind of broken down that initial layer of powder that I put down. Like, I could already kind of feel the tackiness of the foundation. It looks like my skin. It feels like my skin. It feels like it can move with my face, almost like a moisturizer, and we'll see what it looks like at the end of the night. BRB. So this is gonna be my last check-in. I think it looks pretty good. I don't think it looks any worse than most foundations would at this point. You can definitely see my pores. But, you know, it's not really something that I have a huge issue with because I don't mind having skin, generally speaking. When the foundation starts to look really cakey or when the foundation starts to pull apart, that is when it bugs me. I've eaten, it's another thing I should mention, I ate a sandwich, so not necessarily something that is going to spare my foundation because I lived my life in this foundation because that's what people do. All right, guys. Yeah, I'm going to end this right here. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber and you want to be, just hit the subscribe button on your way out. I'll see you next time. Peace out, guys.